Prep TV. Today's video has been entirely dedicated to the art of sending emails. So basically what I'm telling you is you're definitely gonna want to stick around so that you can hear a variety of pro tips that you need to keep in mind when it comes to that topic. Now, if you do not know, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Mackenzie Warren. I'm the founder of Mac School Prep, and my goal is to help you put your best foot forward in the classroom and overall be successful in school. Before we go ahead and jump right into the content, I just want to encourage you now to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a beat. And on that note, no more delay, it's time, let's get it. Okay, just like I mentioned in the intro, today we're going to be talking about the art of sending emails. I don't want to waste any time, so let's just go ahead and jump right into the meat. So my pro tip number one is in the leveraging technology video that I posted to the Mac School Prep YouTube channel a while back. We talked about the importance of creating an email account, specifically one with Gmail, as that's the platform I use, so of course I'm going to promote it. But what I want to do right now is just remind you to go refresh yourself on the leveraging technology video if some of the information seems a little bit far away, and also go check out the links in the description of that YouTube video so that you can learn exactly how to go about creating a Gmail account and also how to navigate the basic features of Gmail. Now, something that I want you to keep in mind when you're signing up with Gmail is make sure that your email address is professional, as it's something that you're going to be using whenever you're sending emails to professors, to teachers, and eventually when you're applying for a job. So in other words, I'm saying no cupcakemaster546@gmail.com or doglover12345@gmail.com. That stuff is too cutesy, too fun, and it really doesn't speak to how serious you should be about handling your business. Because your email address is something that you're going to be using for the long haul, I'm going to tell you now, your best bet is to make an email address that is some variation of your name. So take janebdoe@gmail.com, for example. Also, I just want to let you know that it's perfectly fine if your email address includes some numbers, maybe symbols like a period, because it's definitely always a possibility that your first choice email address has already been taken. I mean, think about it. We have so many people on this planet, so many people making email addresses. I mean, it's just bound to happen that there is some type of overlap. Alrighty, moving on to my pro tip number two, don't overuse email. So in other words, I'm suggesting that before you even start writing up an email, you ask yourself if email is the best and most appropriate medium of communication for the information that you're wanting to share with someone else. For example, especially when it comes to expressing emotions, seeking clarification, or giving long-winded instructions, you're gonna be best served by just picking up the phone and making a call or having an in-person conversation. And look, I get it, I've said this before. Many youths nowadays think it's scary or even taboo almost to pick up the phone and make a call or to have face-to-face interactions. In other words, us teens are obsessed with doing everything via message, even if it means sending a huge paragraph of writing in which our meaning can be misconstrued and that literally nobody is going to want to read because it's just way too much on the eyes. And like I've mentioned in other videos, I'm going to reiterate it today because it doesn't hurt to say this multiple times. It's time to start training yourself now, if you haven't already, to become less reliant on written communication. Oftentimes, it's just going to be easier and more convenient to pick up the phone and have a call or to have an in-person meeting because nothing gets lost in translation. You get immediate results, and just by the sound of someone's voice, you can have a lot more insight into an individual's psyche. Alrighty, transitioning to pro tip number three, don't get fancy with subject lines. Yes, they should get your recipient's attention and incline them to open up the email, but they definitely shouldn't be too ostentatious, too flowery, too wordy, or too over the top. Basically, just get straight to the point with your subject line so that your recipient knows exactly what to expect upon opening your email. I mean, let's face it, it's called a subject line for a reason. It should clearly convey the subject or the main idea of your email. And just a side note here, something that I often use in my subject lines to convey the crux of my email message is the word RE colon or re colon, which is basically just an abbreviation abbreviation for regarding or the phrase with regard to. Now, tying everything in this pro tip together, I want to go ahead and present you with an example. So if I were to email my group partner for an English project about a change in location for our October 13th meeting, the subject line of my email would most likely be something like change of location RE:1013 group meeting. So if it's not obvious by now, short and sweet is definitely the name of the game when it comes to subject lines. Okay, pro tip number 4 is keep your email messages brief and simple. Don't be overly verbose. Don't feel the need to just fill in the space with words if you don't have to, because remember, in the case of sending emails, simplicity is bliss. Typically, my rule of thumb is if your recipient has to scroll to read your entire email message, you're most likely sending too much information. So your best bet is to either pick up the phone and make a call or to shorten your email message tremendously. Now, regarding simplicity, make it easy for your recipient to understand your message. If they have to read your email multiple times before they finally figure out what you're trying to say, you're probably not going to receive a very prompt response, if you even receive one at all. A great strategy for keeping your emails simple and straight to the point is avoid using long-winded and run-on sentences that spill over multiple lines and are difficult to comprehend. And reason for this is because by the time your reader gets to the end of your super-duper long sentence, they're probably going to have forgotten what you even said at the beginning, and by that point, all is lost in translation. Alrighty, now let's talk about pro tip number 5, and that is pay attention to formatting. The bottom line with this one is people are going to be more receptive to your emails whenever they're easy on the eye. So what are some things you need to keep in mind in terms of formatting your emails? Well, first things first, you want to state the most important information at the beginning of your email. And reason for this is because there are some people who like to skim, they feel like they're too busy, they don't want to read the entire thing in depth. And in those types of situations, you want to make sure that those individuals are getting to the crux, getting to the meat, getting to the heart of your email message very quickly. Something else to keep in mind is the bigger the text, the better, because your recipient won't have to strain to read whatever it is that you're saying. Something else I have for you is don't go overboard with using crazy fonts or multiple fonts. I mean, you can never go wrong with just sticking to the standard default font of Gmail. Another thing I want you to avoid is going wild with color. I mean, don't get me wrong here. It's perfectly fine to occasionally bold or highlight in yellow important parts of your email message so you can draw special attention to those areas. However, using several different colors randomly at that is going to be a recipe for disaster because it's distracting and it takes away from the main point of your email. And the final thing you're going to want to keep in mind when it comes to formatting your email is break up your email body with spaces when appropriate. And so in other words, yes, it's definitely more appealing and definitely so much better to have 2 paragraphs of maybe 2 to 3 sentences each than one big fat bulky paragraph of 4 to 6 sentences. With that out the way, now I want to touch on pro tip number 6, and that is be mindful of your tone and never lose sight of politeness and professionalism. Listen here when I say that I don't want you to get it twisted. Emails are in no way, shape, or form like text messages, so they should not be treated as such. Because emails are meant for handling business, your wording should never be too casual. Even if you're sending an email to your best friend that you've known for 20 years, it doesn't matter. You never know who could end up seeing the email because emails are permanent and they are always on the record, which is why I'm telling you that it's better to just err on the side of caution and be overly formal in your emails. Another token of advice I have for you in terms of making sure that your emails are professional is proofread, proofread, proofread. At the end of the day, your goal should be to never send off an email that has typos because all that screams what that has written all over it is negligence. Now look, I do get that accidents happen, so it's certainly not the end of the world if you end up sending an email that has a typo, but what I like to do personally to eliminate any grammatical errors, any misspellings before pressing send is read the email out loud to myself several times because I'm more likely to catch any mistakes that way. Now, with regard to politeness and tone, you have to understand that it's very easy for words to be misconstrued when they're in writing, which is why it's so important that you're very in tune with how you're coming across. Never take for granted that a person, even if they're very familiar with your personality, your character, the way you are, might not know what you mean, how you feel, or where you're coming from in your email. So a good strategy to keep at the forefront of your brain brain whenever you're conducting business via email to prevent any sort of misinterpretation of your message is to avoid using figurative language altogether. Trust me when I say that it's not unusual for idioms, similes, metaphors, especially the ones that aren't used as commonly, to just go over people's head. So it's better that you just be safe than sorry and stick to using words that don't have any double meaning. Now, for my pro tip number 7, it requires that I return to a point I made as part of pro tip number 6, and that is emails are not like text messages, so you shouldn't send off an email and expect an immediate response, a response super late at night, or a response over the weekend. Depending on the nature and content of the email you send off, it might take anywhere from several minutes all the way up to 3 to 5 business days, so not including weekends, before you get a response. So my best advice for you here is just be patient and give people time, as you never know where your email is gonna fall on their list of priorities. Now, if you're anything like me, I prefer to send follow-up emails because I understand that schedules get busy and sometimes it slips people's mind to respond to my emails. Also, when someone I'm in contact with asks me to follow up with them by a certain date if I still haven't heard back from them, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm gonna do it exactly as they say. Sometimes I even go the distance of having my phone send me a reminder about following up with someone on a certain day per their request. However, I don't want you to get me wrong here. While I do know that the money is in the follow-up, I never inundate people with follow-up emails because I know that that can certainly come across as annoying and it can clutter up people's inbox. What I'm trying to say here is that I never send more than one follow-up email to an individual. If I still don't get a response soon after sending a follow-up email, even if it's a reply as simple as, "Hey Mackenzie, I received your initial email. I'm a bit swamped at the moment, but I'll circle back and get in touch with you soon," I just resort to picking up the phone and giving someone a call if that's a viable option. Now, the rule of thumb for how many days you should typically wait before sending off a follow-up email is a little bit tricky because it really is dependent on the nature of your original email. However, what I'm going to tell you is that waiting 5 to 7 days, give or take, and remember, not including weekends, is probably a pretty good benchmark. Switching gears to pro tip number 8, this one is a bit of a spin on the golden rule of school that teachers tend to stress to no end, and that is treat people how you want to be treated. Regarding emails, what I'm trying to get at here is that if you prefer to receive timely responses, then you need to set the example. In other words, it's not fair for you to be hypocritical in which you expect a response to your email within 24 hours, but then it takes you over 10 days to respond to an email requesting information as simple as, "Yo, where is XYZ event taking place?" The way I like to handle my business, and you can feel free to emulate my approach, is to make sure that I answer all my emails within 3 days or less. If the sender is asking me something simple or just giving me an update and I can afford to respond with just a quick one-liner, I don't keep them waiting past 24 hours. Now, if my response needs to be well thought out and I do have a lot on my plate at the moment, my response window typically extends to about 1 to 2 days. And finally, if the sender is asking something of me that requires I put in a lot of time and effort to get them what they need, I don't just ignore them until I've done what they've asked. Instead, I usually respond with an acknowledgement of their email by just saying, "Okay, got it. I'll aim to have you the information that you requested by XYZ date, but feel free to reach out if you don't hear from me by then." So there you have it. That's my approach when it comes to answering emails, so feel free to take it, leave it, modify it, whatever suits you best. And finally, we have hit the home stretch with pro tip number 9, and that is all of your emails should have an opening and a closing, but they can definitely be switched up depending on who your recipient is. My go-to opening that I use in all of my emails for everyone, my peers and authority figures alike, is "Hi so-and-so, comma," or "Hi so-and-so, exclamation point." However, to make things a little bit more formal, you can always say "Hello so-and-so, comma," or "Dear so-and-so, comma," and to make things a little less formal, but remember, we're not trying to be too casual here. I talked about maintaining professionalism earlier. You can always go with a "Hey so-and-so, comma," a "Hey so-and-so, exclamation point," or even just put the person's name, comma, and then have the email body underneath it. So John Doe, comma, blah, 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 getting to the point. You understand what I'm saying. Now, switching gears to closings, you have a lot of different options that you can choose from, and we're going to be diving into those momentarily, but my go-to for closing is best, comma, my name underneath it, and in regards to my name, if I'm sending the email to an authority figure, an adult, or someone that I want to make sure that I'm being super hyper professional with, I will always make sure to sign my first and my last name. So best, comma, underneath it, Mackenzie Warren. Now for my peers, my friends, people that are closer in age to me, I usually just keep it at best, comma, Mackenzie's, or I might just ignore the best altogether and just put hyphen my first name and keep it at that. But just like I said a little while ago, there are so many different options you can choose from when it comes to closings. You don't just have to stick to my go-to, which is best. There's also my best, all my best wishes, best regards, kind regards, warm regards, regards. Truly, yours truly, sincerely, yours sincerely, faithfully, yours faithfully. Thank you, thanks, many thanks, with gratitude, with appreciation. Cheers, and I'm gonna close it off with warmly. And on that note, we have officially wrapped up this video all about the art of sending emails. After all of these pro tips that you have added to your repertoire, you should officially be a master of sending emails. All you have to do is start implementing these strategies into your routine and you're gonna be good to go. Now, before you leave and before I catch you in the next video, I just wanna encourage you now to give this video a thumbs up if you didn't do it at the beginning, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also hit that notification bell so that you can stay in the loop with everything that I have to offer. And I will be sure to see you very soon. Alrighty, bye!